Good evening, everyone. Can you please call the roll?
Mr. Kelly.
Offside.
Present.
Mr. Matt. Mr. Russell.
Here.
All here.
Okay, so we have a quorum. With that, we please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, everyone. Do we have anyone signed up to speak this evening?
No one signed up.
All right. So in front of you, you have the meeting minutes from October 21st, 2021. Please look over them for any additions, corrections.
Do we add the fire chief since he was here, or since it's a separate text and all resolution?
Because he signed up to speak, and I think, no,
He spoke later.
right, no, that's what I'm asking. I was asking if he was signed in. Do we know? Trevor.
Because he did, no.
No.
Okay.
He asked for a link, but he did not ask to speak.
No, Trevor spoke at the last meeting.
Oh.
Yeah, but he was talking about the stakeholder meeting. Yeah.
On page 4 of the top line, one time spelling correction, completed, the audit, it shows maybe completed. It's a great word.
To trustee Palestrini's comments about the fire protection district chief. Can we just add the chief Herman of the Hampshire Fire Protection District? So that when people look at it in 20 years or 30 years after we're all gone, then they'll know that he was here.
He was here. He meant.
And who he represented.
Thank you.
Oh, no, perfect. All right. Any other changes to the minutes? Then I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes with the changes that we talked about. Any other comments? Please call roll.
Mr. Kelly.
Same.
Mr. Coe.
Aye.
Mr. Matt. Ms. Palestrini. Ms. Robinson.
Aye.
Ms. Fodor.
Abstain.
4 ayes, 2 abstain. Motion passed.
We're good now?
We're good.
Okay. All right, so we have a proclamation this evening. So this has been a year in the making to celebrate the 175th year of the Zion Methodist Church here in Hampshire, Illinois. It was established in 1845 and has been a part of our community since that time. And so they're going to celebrate their 175th plus 1 anniversary coming up here. And so there's a proclamation which I can read here. It says, whereas the year 2021 marks the 175th plus 1 anniversary of the Zion United Methodist Church in Hampshire, Illinois, which continues to be dedicated to the service of God and humanity. And whereas we give pause and honor and praise this day for the deep abiding Christian commitment of those who in faith began this work, and for all those who have given so unselfishly during these many years to help and grow the work, grow and thrive and provide valuable human services where the need was great. And whereas our community has benefited from the charity and Christian influence of this church that has exerted through the years and the many facets of its outreach and practical assistance to the needy. And whereas it is a pleasure to extend this expression of our esteem and best wishes to the members and of this congregation on this memorable occasion of this 175th plus 1 anniversary. Now, therefore, I, Michael J. Reed Jr., Village President of Hampshire, Illinois, urge all residents to join together in their recognition and appreciation for the members, past and present, of the congregation of the Zion United Methodist Church for their commitment and Christian contributions to our community. So we have some representatives of the Zion United Methodist Church here this evening. We took a photograph of signing this, and so actually this was like 2 or 3 days into office. Dr. Tom, you reached out about this? Yeah. And so this has been a long time in the making, and I was happy to do it. So thank you to you for coming, and thank you to the church for being a part of this community.
Our service of Thanksgiving is a week from this Sunday at the church, November 14th at 10:30. So anybody that wants to come is more than welcome to come celebrate with us.
All right. Thank you very much for coming. All right, Mr. Hedges?
Mr. Mayor, the first thing I would like to ask is for a motion to table the first item on the agenda to incomplete information.
Well, it's up to you guys that we can talk about it. There was, what was incomplete? So the notary was wrong, right? And then the surety bond?
I believe the surety bond wasn't adequate.
So, I mean, looking at that, look at the timeline of it. I mean, we can table it. I think it's probably a better move because it's just this November is the date. It doesn't give a specific date on the application, or we can approve it with the contingent of the surety bond. What does the board want to do?
Did they say how long it would take them to get it or what, anything?
I told them to, get somebody local real quick, go real fast and get it. And they said they were gonna try. I said, I could be here, just call me, let me know, I can work with you.
It's their annual calendar sale. It's not
Yeah.
like they're gonna sell 23,000 tomorrow.
I'm fine with voting pending all the paperwork's in order.
I just because otherwise it's gonna be 2 more weeks and it's gonna be toward Thanksgiving.
No, I'm fine with, I'm fine with moving forward as long as they get pending.
Are you okay with that, Mr. Hedges?
That's your call, sure.
Okay, so then I'll entertain a motion to approve the raffle license for the St. Charles Borromeo School for their calendar sales with the condition that their surety bond and all their paperwork checks out.
So move.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Have we done something like this approval for other organizations?
I think we just did not too long ago because there was a signature out of place on the notary.
Okay.
I think it was for, I think it was for
There's
firearm.
precedent that we've done
Yeah.
this. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it was for the sportsman club, I believe.
So in the last, okay, I was in that.
No, you weren't, but it was like 2 or 3 months ago. The paperwork wasn't correct either.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Fodor,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
All right.
Mr. Coe,
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Ms. Paulini,
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Motion passed. Six.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, now.
Sorry to call an audible.
Oh, no, that's okay. Now we have a presentation from DeBrow Construction regarding proposed Rumpke Road development. We have with us tonight the principals, and I'll let Peter and Christina introduce themselves. You've all been briefed on this project. We're just going to be talking tonight about their development, any future uses of the project. So this is just an informal presentation to give you some familiarity with it. And we will be asking for board action in 2 weeks on the development agreement. And at that, you'll be receiving the development agreement tomorrow, so you'll have 2 weeks to read it.
Can I say something to get started? This is something that the village has been working on prior to our being installed. They met with, Peter and Christina both met with former Mayor Magnuson and Mr. Hedges some time ago. And then during the course of the transition, I was brought into the conversation, and then you guys have all been briefed on this as well. So it's not something that just has kind of happened. This has been something that's been in the works for quite some time. I just kind of wanted to put that out there before you guys. So, okay, welcome, and you're welcome to speak.
Thank you. How do I move
Just,
things?
if you could just give Josh a change.
Oh, okay, magic hand. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm Christina Luswig. This is Peter Baroud. We both work together with a construction company, DeBrow. We created a property development company known as Rumpke, which is what you'll be seeing in all of our legal documents for this project when we move forward. If you could, thanks. So we've got DeBrow and then Rumpke and the next one. We have both worked together on DeBrow intrinsically, and then Rumpke, we are also intrinsically together. The next one. So the proper, oh, what happened to my little thing? So just to give you a,
Way down in the corner.
oh, I see it on the.
You got shade.
No, you're fine. You can stand it.
Stand wherever you feel comfortable.
The property that is the subject property that we're purchasing under contract is in the bottom right-hand corner. And then up there by the star is the downtown area where we are right now. And then I just put chicken dip. Because that's always a good reference for me. It always helps me. to the next slide. So there's, in the paperwork you'll be seeing, there is the already completed development of Tuscany Woods. That is referenced as Unit 1 historically with all the other documents that came in way before we got involved and knew anything about this. The other part of it is Unit 2, which is the territory that is undeveloped and it lays outside of that subdivision. And that's what we've been negotiating, is separating this bottom parcel from the top parcel, both undeveloped areas. So as a new definition, while we were coming up with all these terms, we were like, we gotta call this something. So it reminds me of the Green Acres. We got the northerly acres north of Route 72, and then we have the southerly acres south of Route 72, which is what we're interested in developing. And then I wanted to take a closer look. So when we get to this southerly portion, we're interested in doing basically a commercial development on the northern part of our subject property and a residential area on the southern part of that property. So we're looking at approaching this as a phase 1 commercial development and subdividing. It's a roughly 40-acre lot, and possibly having an interior road that would divide the commercial section from the other portion. And roadway improvements are a big deal for this property because we need to work on a deceleration lane with a turn lane and at a Romkey and 72 up there. We had entertained the idea of having the interior road that would separate the northern southern portion of that property. And then obviously each entity could have an access into their individual parking lots. This is all rough estimate. There's a second option where ideally, I think as a business or whatever future entity to pursue a right-in, right-out access off of 72 or full access, right? I don't know if they'll do that. It all is depending on IDOT, what they're going to want to approve on that. And then the next one would be, the alternate would be no interior road dividing the property and just having an entrance right in, right out. So there's a lot of engineering and we still don't know what we're going to face when we get into pursuing this, like what we can get for these future tenants, these future owners. So these are the, oh, that looks funny.
8 acres, 3.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what happened to my verse. So these are the 3 parcels that we're proposing. We want to separate it into. Basically, this was going to be an 8-acre on the top left-hand corner, and that would be more of an institutional setting. There would be a center section available for commercial, and then a corner, the hard corner lot, also available for commercial. So the middle pink one is 3 acres, and that other one on the outside is 5. If that entity were to be interested, they could purchase, the 5 and the 3 together and combine them for an 8-acre parcel, depending on what their needs are. So this is just saying the same thing I just said, institutional, commercial, and commercial. And then this is what I was talking about with the interior road possibly coming through there, which would be available to develop if someone were to do anything to the east or west of us eventually, but we don't know yet. And then as far as the residential, we're looking at this bottom portion. There's still corn, at least when I drove by it, there's still corn up, so we haven't been able to perform our topography yet, so we don't know what our capabilities are for how many residential multi-units we could possibly put there. Soil boring came out really well for us, but until we can do our topos, we don't really know exactly what units we're looking at. We already know that we're working around the wetlands area, so they're limited on size, but that's all to be determined. And then I wanted to split off because I know that there was same faces, but different business entities. So that was the property development and we use as Romkey. And that's what you see in your paperwork. And then Peter and I, when we work together, we've been working together for 14 years. We handle all of our projects through DeBrow. And this is something you can see on, you can just kind of scroll through these. It's just stuff that we've done together, and commercial, residential, it's semi-industrial, special build projects. He has a really big history in construction with his family, which he branched off of. Because there's too many brothers and just too much of this. And the office was very lively, so we kind of branched off and did our own thing. Yeah, do you wanna talk about your?
Well, that's fine. I've been actually working since I was probably about 15 years old building. So now I'm 53, well, just turned 53 actually. This one is the strip mall we built right at, Algonquin Commons, right in front of it. The men's warehouse, we built that whole corner. And then we sold that off. Apartment buildings, we've done dealerships. I've done truck dealerships in Joliet, Jiffy Lubes. And then little build outs for a lot of dance place in Crystal Lake.
A lot of old historic stuff actually, which is fun. I tend to be a softie for the old historic renovations and he tends to like the new
Just
construction.
in Woodstock, we've done an ancient building.
Hey, I like
Oak Lodge.
a good ghost story. This one definitely has some ghost stories.
So, what you were saying with the topography, with the retention pond might shrink. We might push it on the other side because there's dead land on the other side of the creek. And that's what my engineer's trying to figure out, how we can use the other side property with behind the creek. And that's why we can't really figure out exactly what's gonna happen until the engineer starts really going into it. And since the field's there, we kind of got screwed up a little, and it's still not cut, so. I don't know, I haven't been there the last couple of days, but I know it's here, what? 2 days ago.
Yeah,
It's
but it's been fairly dry, so it should come down soon.
We're hoping, because everybody else I've been driving, all everybody else's fields around here are gone, so I'm hoping they're gonna start next, because my engineer asks me every day when am I gonna get to go out there and start looking at it, so that's. Realistically, that's what's holding us up right now.
So if anybody sees it going down, let Jay know.
Yeah.
I go by every day.
And these are kind of the type of apartments we're looking at doing here, middle to higher end apartments.
These are just concept ideas, just to give a style of what's appealing, what I think would be appealing, something that integrates well into the community of Hampshire. Looks pretty, kind of is harmonious with the other properties across and.
This is what your city engineer was actually. The
So-
city engineer was that.
Oh,
that's
this
what
is
they
a
were looking
whole-
at
yeah.
doing.
Yeah, so if, well, Toby was around for that. Do you remember when Tom Smalls came in the group and they rezoned and they downzoned the backside of Tuscany Woods? And then we were able to get them to agree to do 10 acres in the front, on the front side, move all their, you were here for that too.
Apartments in the back.
The townhomes in the back, and then we were able to get them to agree commercial up in the front.
Right, and he also agreed to an access road on the south side of the commercial buildings as a buffer between that and the apartments.
That was something, that access road that you were talking about at the time was something that was really important to the board, to separate the residential development from the commercial. It
Well, with apartments, you're not really worried about it as much as
was
a
like
house or a townhouse. It's a lot nicer, you want a yard. Apartment buildings would be sitting in the middle of a parking lot anyway, so between everything, you're gonna have a buffer, let's put trees up there anyway.
Right.
So, it may, what is on
Yeah,
that.
for multifamily.
Multi-tenant apartment.
No,
And Mr. Mayor, just also to point out that they're proposing about twice as much commercial as Tom Smalls proposed.
right,
We're looking at 16 acres.
right. And I just remember that the fight that the board had to get that group to even consider putting commercial
Right.
on that property. It was something, the commercial in the front on 72 was something really important to the board, and it was something they weren't very receptive to at the time. And they actually,
They want it all residential.
they wanted all residential, and then they wanted, I think there was a sunset clause or something like that, that like if they didn't sell it within 10 years, it was gonna revert back to residential.
Well, because I don't think they're more of a home builder anyways. Me, I have a bigger background. I'd love to turn it all commercial, but that's hearsay. We gotta see what's happening in the area, but I know it's better for you guys, it's tax dollars.
That's why we wanted that commercial, yeah.
That's why we're looking at the whole front end, commercial and the ground, and that's what we're shooting for anyways. And actually, we're showing 3, we're seeing what's more inducive, we actually might separate the 4, just in case someone wants less. Makes it easier if they got, in their 4 acre lots. And we can always sell them 2 at a time, and they can buy, it doesn't matter if they have 2 parcels or 1 parcel. But it's just better for them anyway, so split it into 4, and then the bottom part will be 1.
I'd like to see it move along and develop rather than sit empty and vacant.
You're not the only one.
It's, I mean, we were hoping, initially when we started with this,
Wow.
and I'm not even gonna name the date, but,
It was
Yeah.
prior to May.
it just.
It was definitely prior to May, and that's when we met the first time.
Yes.
There's a lot of legal stuff.
We were hoping to see this move even quicker. I thought maybe we would get something more done for 2021, but the corn did send, Ron and Don sent.
They actually signed a purchase contract in June. So
Yes.
they've been working to finalize it since then.
They didn't tell us they put corn up until one day I'm driving by and I'm like, why is this guy plowing the field? They want to sell a lot, but they're putting corn on in the process. It killed me because I couldn't do anything. I actually lost when we were doing the boring. We actually lost them. We had to actually put longer grade poles so you could see it. Because they were shooting
Okay.
grades and then,
We did do our soil boring already and some of that came back. That was all good for us, for what we needed. Yeah, and then unfortunately, I think everyone's gonna have fun reading through all the
paperwork.
legal documents. Sorry about that.
You know, Mark over there's enjoying life.
It's only 36 pages.
Twice times 2, 1 for each.
Times 2.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Christina and Peter both
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you for having, thank you for having.
Thank you guys have time for a few questions.
Absolutely.
Just a couple. Okay, hi, thank you for your presentation, and, just want to make sure I understood, when you said deadland, I'm assuming that means unable to develop. Is that right?
Oh, wetlands.
Oh, you said wetland?
Yeah.
And there's a creek going through there.
Deadlands.
If you could show that one.
Wetland is really deadland.
Yeah, no, it's very, very living and vibrant, but it's just not able
Dead
to
and
be
down.
developed, right? Okay, and then
We wanted to wait probably 3 years to get rid of it, but I can't.
It makes
The
it
Army
pretty,
Corps of Engineers locked
it
that.
makes a pretty bird and butterfly and bee sanctuary.
it sure does. And I'm just wondering how much of that land in the bottom parcel is wetland?
If you bring that up.
Is that,
Yeah, she had a map, he had a map.
yeah, no, I just don't. I'm trying to figure out.
I think that was
You can put her back up, Christina.
It's on the second or third, right? Keep going.
Because I could see it, I just would like to,
One more engineering, you'll see it better.
No, there's another.
See, right there.
yeah.
This is all wetlands. The retention ponds here, well, we're trying, once we get the topo, we're gonna try to move it here, most of it here, because
Mhm.
that's buildable land better. And
Great.
there's wetlands and then there's farm wetlands that are not really registered. They're just kind of a wetlands
Right.
and that's why we're looking at maybe putting the parks in the wetlands or the farm wetlands, where it means it never gets wet. It just moist where it's not inducive to farming. So this would be the area, and then this is same, so we're looking at putting a retention pond right there or splitting it into 2.
Okay, and my question is, can you give me a number on the?
How much?
of that? Yes,
6 acres.
6 acres is
Yes,
the
the
wetland.
wetlands.
Okay, and then there's a creek there?
There's a creek right here. You can see it.
Where?
See where it says US code wetland, the creek runs right through it.
Okay,
But that's why it's 2 different, one has a hashing, a different hashing. The real light hashing is it's unbuildable.
okay,
You can't touch that.
it's very tiny, so it's.
Just understand.
No, there's no
Yeah.
canoeing.
Okay, and then. You know,
Yes.
It's really good enough. If you haven't seen it before, it's just really good to see what it says. And then as far as apartments, I know you mentioned kind of upscale. I really like them. They're very pretty. But one of the things that I had heard before I came on the board was a need for affordable housing for apartments in town. Is that still part of this?
Middle to upper. It can't really be affordable because then you're looking at lower income homes and then if that, you really want low income apartments.
I would just like for Hampshire residents to still be able to afford to live here. You know, like, my young son or my older parent or something
Well,
like that.
what is your price range you're thinking?
Well, I don't have one. I'm just asking like,
No.
what is,
By affordable, what's nice is to have a nice blend of someone who's like a young person who's moving out, they're like, all right, I want my own place. They're not gonna go and, unless they're gonna join up with a bunch of other friends and rent an apartment together. So to have those single occupancy, like 1 bedroom, to have that option, that even though it's in a nicer facility, it still makes it affordable for someone
Right.
who's younger, or older, actually, it doesn't really necessarily mean you have to be younger.
So when I don't mean to cut you off, but when we had met originally, I'd asked similar questions about the type of apartments and stuff. And one of the things that they had shared with me are the different options as far as even single units, single occupancy units on the first floor for like older residents that are looking to downsize and that kind of thing. And then for younger residents that are looking to get out on their own and that kind of thing.
That's.
But but if you were looking for something that's going to be
500 a month.
500 a month, that's not this type of development, which is not what we were, well, I'm not saying what we were, but not something that was, the village was interested in at the beginning of this, which is like an army barracks type style apartment. And so that we were looking for something that fit in the community and that kind of stuff.
Right.
It would fit what the average earnings per household is now.
Right,
We just want to be careful not to price out the people that want to stay, but down.
right.
That is exactly.
And that was one of the conversations that we had too, is because we were talking about, there's a lot of people that have no choice but to leave.
Mhm.
And this would give people an option to stay.
That was my concern, and that's why I was asking that question. This- I- I
What would
do
be the
want
height
to-
when you're looking to give us?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
How high can we go?
Peter, that's something we really should be talking about here. Our limit right now is 3 stories. We've talked about that before, so that would be the current code.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, because if you go higher up, it makes it a little affordable for us to build too.
I like having those ground floor levels available for ADA and residents and people who need to be on ground level or going into retirement that want, it's nice to have those units and then.
That,
Or older people,
yeah, that was
about
my question.
65.
The point he's making is if you put a 10-story building there, his ground costs are the same, construction costs would be higher, of course, but the code right now limits it to 3 stories.
Would there be, like, in trying to get it more affordable, would there be ability to have studios? Like a studio, 1 bedroom, 2
One
bedroom?
bedrooms.
I don't,
Okay,
I like the
That's all.
idea.
I'm just throwing it out.
I like the idea of studios. I had one when I was younger. It was very helpful. But we're still configuring
Market studies now.
the layout of the building and
Mhm.
based on how many units, structures we can put and then what that's composed of. And I'd imagine there probably would be some spaces left over to make, use all the space. If there's a usable space, they can carve a little out of there and make a smaller unit there. I don't see why not.
Okay.
I like it.
Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you so much for coming tonight. Do you have any questions for us that we can answer? I'm sure you have a million questions, but there's
Always a million
some of that belongs to Jay and the experts, but is there anything that we can answer?
No, we've been in good hands. The communication has been great and it's nice to officially meet all of your faces because I see your name tags when we've been here, but it's nice to be received. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to introduce the next 3 agenda items are grouped together, 3 separate ordinances. And we have with us tonight the homeowner, Gerald Tully, who's sitting over here. Gerald, and so if you just, before we start, I'm going to read the first ordinance. I just want to explain, we also have with us Brian Marock, Planning and Zoning Commission Chairman, who can answer any questions you have. The zoning board did vote to support the first 2 variances and voted 1 to 3 not to support the last variance. However, they did have some conditions. So I'm going to read the first ordinance and put it under discussion. I'll ask Chairman Marock to explain that. I think there were some conditions that you may want to consider. So now 3 of these motions are in the affirmative. So if you choose to agree with the plan commission, it would be to vote no on the 3rd motion. So with that, let me just read the first one into the record, okay, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
An ordinance, we would ask for consideration of an ordinance approving the variance of the requirements for setback from alleyway in the R2 Single Family Residential Zoning District for proposed garage at 304 Park Street in the village. With that.
Can I ask Mr. Marock, are you prepared to kind of walk us through
Sure, I'll do my best.
So these three ordinances pertain to a garage, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so can you kind of walk us through?
Yes, at the Planning and Zoning Commission, Mr. Tully came before us, requesting a single agenda item for resolving a currently existing overage. Mr. Tully has a garage that currently oversteps his property line by about a foot and a half on his west side and several feet shy of satisfying the setback on our current ordinances on the south side. That part of town is what I'd like to call lovingly old town. There are quite a bit of, I'll just jokingly call them shenanigans as far as they do not conform to our current code that were enacted in 1985. So obviously with Mr. Tully's request to modify his garage, that basically engages our modern ordinances. Mr. Tully has been more than willing to reconcile those ordinances as much as we can on the west and south sides. We, as a planning and zoning commission, I think the consensus was to also meet in the middle and allow for a little bit of wiggle room on the ordinances, because he still will, the garage will still not, as proposed, match any of our current ordinances with those setbacks. That is neither Mr. Tully's fault nor his problem to really fix. The height of the proposed garage, I think the general consensus was that it was a little too amorphous. There's no design blueprints, schematics in front of us that made us comfortable with affording a 23-foot height. Just almost, it's going to be built, it's going to be somewhere up to 23 feet. So we chose to break the single agenda item down into three, approve the first two for the west and the southern setbacks. And the third one for the height is what at that time we could not come to a consensus to actually allow that.
And that was because there was no drawings or documents or any of that kind of stuff at your meeting.
Correct.
Which, as you look in your packet, you'll see that there's documents and stuff. And so the reason that those planning and zoning commission voted it down in the way that they did is so that the homeowner could come to us and then appeal it, because then we would act as a zoning board of appeals. But it was voted down based on the fact that there was nothing to really justify the okay in the planning and zoning commission's mind.
I thought I read that, the number 3 got shut down because of the height.
Yes.
Right, that's accurate, because there was nothing there to say what it was going to be.
No, they didn't need that. They know what the existing is and they know what the new is gonna be. And they were gonna go from 15 or 16 feet from the existing to 23 feet for the new. And that's what the board had a problem. Am I correct?
There was, again, there was no definitive or blueprinted schematics to actually justify the request for the height. What you have in your packet this evening is a lot more detailed. Mr. Tully has obviously been very busy. He has provided a lot more detailed schematics in your packet this evening. So with that, that was something that we did not have during our planning and zoning commission meeting. So to come in front of the commission with almost unjustified, I don't mean that offensively in any way. It was just, there was no concrete evidence as to the request for a 23 foot high accessory building.
So with that, I'm sorry, Mr. Edge. So we're going to talk about the first ordinance, which is for the setback on the alleyway.
And Mr. Tully's happy to answer any questions, or if you'd like him just to make some comments, whatever your preferences.
Yeah, I'd be happy to walk through the justification and some of the documents I provided for the height as substantiation for the request, if that's appropriate or wanted.
Absolutely.
Okay, is it all right if I stand over here so I can see the?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming this evening.
Yeah, of course. If you would like, I can walk through the setback requirements on the southern and west side too, but if no one has any time, that maybe I could just jump straight to the height.
I think that's, I mean, it's up to the board. But are you guys comfortable with the approval of the planning and zoning?
I think the planning and zoning approved those setbacks. I'm comfortable with.
So you're comfortable with him just adjusting the height?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know about that height.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable.
Yep.
All right,
If you could go down a couple for me, Josh, that's right where I want to be. So, yeah, in my initial proposal, I had requested a height up to 23 feet, but I didn't have the, detail or substantiation behind why I was making that request. So, I tried to provide that here. There's detailed, engineering drawings to back up the justification behind the heights I have in here, but I figured a 3D image would be better to kind of show relative to the house what the structure would potentially look like. So, what you're seeing here is the house on the left-hand side and the proposed garage on the right-hand side, and this is all to scale. So the garage construction that I have proposed is with a 10-foot high wall. The reason for the 10-foot high wall is I as a hobby, restore classic cars and need that to be able to have a car lift in the garage. So sort of a specialty use case. And then this particular design is shown with a 10-12 pitch roof. And that brings you to the 23 feet. So the justification behind the 10-12 roof, it's an older brick house. It's almost 100 years old. We want to try to match the character and aesthetic of that when rebuilding this garage. Right now, it really doesn't. The garage has different types of siding and things like that. So it's just the renovation would bring it to be a more cohesive look on the property essentially. So this is what we had pictured as an ideal state. You'd get that house with a steeper roof that would more closely match the aesthetic of the house. This does not show, the roof line would be a little bit different than this. I didn't get a chance to draw that up, but there are some pictures of the house later in the presentation that show there's sort of a hip on the house roof. And so we would try to match those types of characteristics as well. That being said, I think there's certainly room for, compromise there. So I did put in a couple of other scenarios here. This is just a rendering to show what the 10-12 pitch garage would look like and compare it to the house. If you want to go up a couple, Josh, for me. So I did also put in here, there's an 8-12 pitch garage and then a 6-12 pitch garage. And those would be 20 feet 9 inches and 18 feet 5 inches respectively. You could potentially go to a 4-12 pitch roof, but that would have to be like a custom framing. They don't make like, prefabricated trusses for that because of the loading. You need some sort of other inside support supporting that type of structure just because of the downward force, given the angle of the roof pitch. So the reason I provided the other scenarios is because if 23 feet is deemed unnecessary or too high, I was hoping that there might be some other type middle ground because 15 feet would be hard to accommodate with a building that width.
Is anything going up is it all truss up there or is anything going up there?
We don't have that detailed out. There's a number of different types of truss constructions you can use. One of those would allow for like loft space.
Okay.
It's not enough to have like a full second story, but you could have like a 7-foot high ceiling loft with the 10-12 pitch roof. So that would be a potential option.
Okay.
for like extra storage and that kind of thing, and,
Yeah.
Are you looking to knock down the current garage and build fresh? Or is it a renovation of the current?
The hope is that we can use the current foundation and existing frame to build upon, but I don't know if that will be possible yet. Given the unique property and everything, that we haven't been able to get to that level of detail with contractors because we don't really know the constraints that we're working with. It's quite possible though that because we do have to move the garage at least 1.5 feet back to the property line, that we might get to a point where it's actually, a better use to actually just knock the garage down completely. But our hope is that we can find a way to make that work without having to completely tear down.
So, Mr. Schuster, my question to you is on a renovation project, on a new build, do we require zoning up, or not zoning, but
code updates to match current code if it's a remodel project for things like setbacks, if it was a grandfathered building?
Yes. Those should be addressed. It's, so a non-conforming use can be continued but not expanded or replaced. That's kind of what you're asking. And so it should conform. That's why he's asking for the variance, at least, to not have to move it too much more into his lot. He's, the 1.5 foot, Mr. Tully has said he's gonna, despite trying to use the existing foundation, he knows on the west side, he's gonna lose 1.5 foot of that to get out of the alleyway altogether, at the 0 lot line. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, I guess outside of just this property, if anybody, as was stated earlier, a lot of the original part of Hampshire do not necessarily follow 1985 code because it was all built well before that.
Sure. Oh, no, exactly.
So am I right in understanding, as somebody wants to renovate a property that pre-exists that and is grandfathered in, would they be required in this same manner to go through and file for a variance if there is some pre-existing thing of the building that makes it out of code, that they want to renovate the building?
I can't recall the exact wording of the village's non-conforming use clauses, but I think renovate is probably allowable, but demolish and replace is not.
Well, and that's why I asked if this is a
And
renovation.
expanding, he's also gonna, Mr. Tully's proposal is to add, what, 8 feet?
6 feet to the.
6 feet more, so he's expanding the use as well. He's gonna
Okay,
make
so
a
the
larger
physical
garage.
footprint is different.
So it's really not a renovation.
Okay, that's what I was trying
Yeah.
to determine, because I'm thinking, as more people
see
want
where
to
you're-
renovate it, are we going to require that they go through?
But if that was if that's grandfathered in, do we really want to make them move it 1.5 foot? And forego the grandfather clause?
Well, it shouldn't be, I'm sorry, it shouldn't be out in the alley. That's the 1.5 foot.
I know that,
Okay, all right,
well aware of that.
all right.
I'm saying it was done long before and it was grandfathered in, so now we're gonna bang them.
Well,
For being
encroachment
grandfathered in?
isn't- The encroachment isn't grandfathered in, the use is grandfathered in. That's what I would say.
Well, then we need to go back and look at who issued the permits and everything and who inspected it, right? They're at fault. He's not at fault, they're at fault. Which means they built it, at fault,
That's possible.
right? I mean, if you pull a permit to build something and you build it and they come out and approve it,
How old is the garage?
can't go back 25 years
They
from
built it
now.
before the code.
Was
Or
it pre
1985.
1985?
Yeah, definitely. We're not, a lot of our surrounding neighbors have lived in the house previously, so I think pre-1970s, but we don't have an exact date. But it's
My guess is that area of town is probably even like.
The house is dated 1929.
Yeah.
But the garage is newer.
We believe so, yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering on the renovation part of it, because that's why Sarah had asked if this is more of a renovation or if it's you're leveling, building a brand new.
Yeah, the expansion was driven by the need to renovate. The garage is in pretty poor shape and
So
some
you do
parts
that
of it.
much work, make it what you want.
Exactly, yeah.
If you haven't seen the house, it's really beautiful and very tastefully done.
It is. Thank you.
I guess my question is, if we look at the findings of fact that is in our packet. On page 3 of that, there are 3 additional variation standards, 4, 5, and 6. And my question would be mostly for Mr. Brock. Do you feel that 5 and 6 have been addressed with this increased detail, with further documentation?
With everything that Mr. Tully has presented to you this evening, I do.
Okay.
With the 23 foot,
Pardon?
with the 23 foot roof.
Yes.
I have a question about the neighbors. I know in the packet it said that you have, there's only one other person that uses the alley then to drive their car, so there's not a lot of traffic in there. But it is, I mean, for me, it's a very large structure. And when I see the pictures between the two houses, the house and they're very similar. I mean, I know there's different, and this is just a schematic thing to look at, but
Yeah.
they're very similar in size, so it's almost as if there are two huge structures on this property. And that makes me a little nervous or a little uncomfortable. What I would like to know is if you've had, I know you've had to notify your neighbors, but has there been any discussion that you've had with them and any comments that they've given? Which I know is hearsay here, but I mean, because you're speaking for them, but I mean, I'm just curious.
No, we did obviously have to, give a certified mail, notification to all of the surrounding residents. Which, because we're on a corner lot, was, I think, 8 different neighbors. All the neighbors that we have been able to talk to, were in support of it. There was one neighbor to the south of us that I haven't been able to address her correctly because the house is currently unoccupied.
Okay.
But otherwise, I've talked directly with all of our neighbors about it and they're in support. They didn't have any issues or anything that they noted to us that would cause any problems.
And they noted that it was 23 feet.
Yes, that was part of the package that I sent out to them with this, and then we've obviously had casual conversations about it.
Okay. By this picture here, because of course I'm looking at the size of this going, wow, this is so much different. It does, I mean, shows that there's another room up there and then there's a whole stairway to get up there. And is this, I know it said in there that it wasn't, but is anybody gonna be living up in there?
It's not planned to be used for residential use. If anything, it would just be stored. We don't plan to have like a guest bedroom or anything up there. It's, the garage is primarily gonna be used for my hobby, which is rebuilding cars. So the upstairs, I'm hoping to make into, just like an area where I can do like machining work and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Marock, Mr. Tully, Mr. Schuster, or Mr. Hedges? Okay, so if we were going to, we need to vote on these, and so, we'd have to vote on them one by one, and then we need to, these are just in the approving the variance request for all 3 of them.
But you're all in the affirmative.
Correct. So you guys want to start to go through this, or do you want to talk about this more? Okay.
The one thing is my druthers on this would be, I prefer it to be a little bit lower so it wasn't as high. So if given that option that you could go a little bit lower, I would prefer to see that rather than the full 23.
Can you provide the reason?
I just don't like as high of a structure as it is, and with the houses being right nearby, it seems just so monstrous. So if it was a little bit lower, kind of to sink it back in a little bit.
The houses are larger than all.
I know that, but looking at the one house versus the proposed garage, there is both really huge.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
She's looking
I
at,
want it to blend better, and that's my fear is it's not gonna blend if it's this big monstrous garage, because you're adding a bunch of feet to it to make it bigger, which I understand is for what you need it to be.
I understand where you're coming from, but I think if it's done correctly,
Mhm.
I think it'll add to it. I think that if it doesn't, that like if he was to do it, to my understanding, just to help me out with this. You're planning on like matching the siding of the house and that kind of, that look. It's gonna be aesthetically pleasing, so it's gonna look like it's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be a separate structure and a separate color or a different type of construction and that kind of stuff. I think that I'd probably be more concerned, like as far as you are with that, if it was gonna be completely different and not matched.
See, I mean, even with this one, I mean, he shows the hip that's on the
Right.
existing house, and then the intention is to put it on the new structure. And so I see that he's trying to match it.
Right.
It just, living in a farm community, and I'm newer to a farm community, I see that huge amount and it's like, looks to me like there's a tractor that's gonna go in there. And then I know on the one side, you do have a higher garage, that looks like it kind of rolls up on the one side that's on the inside by the house itself.
Yeah,
How
right.
high
Facing
a door
that?
is that going to be?
It's a 8-foot door, I
Okay,
believe
so-
that I put on there. It's yeah, it's like a roll-up utility door for like lawnmowers and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
so you're gonna have a 10-foot door in the front, and then you're gonna have an 8-foot door on the side, correct?
It's, the front door should be a 16 by 8 garage door, and then the door on the left, I believe. is-
Okay, so the wall
4 by-
height's 10, but you're not gonna go, okay.
That's right.
So the highest, so the reason I was asking, so most residential garage doors are 7-foot. This is gonna be an 8-foot door in the front, an 8-foot door on the side. I understand what you're saying,
That
but,
rolls up.
yeah, but he's saying that that's gonna be no higher than the door on the front of the building.
Okay.
And so to your point about a tractor, most tractors are higher than.
I know, I'm not that new.
No,
to the
no, no,
community.
what I'm saying is, no, because just so, as you're saying, so like, even if he was to have a travel trailer or something like that, with an 8-foot door, it's not gonna fit.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's why I was asking the question, because for like that, you need to have like.
You know how tall your existing garage is now?
It's 16 feet.
Okay.
Total house.
I believe it was on that slide.
It's 32.
32.
So the structure that they're building is still gonna be lower than the house. Okay. So how is everybody comfortable with moving forward with the 23 feet? I mean, I'm not trying to negate you at all, but does anybody else have any concerns over the height? Or are you guys comfortable moving forward with the 23?
I think it's important to note that, you know, when you're looking at the exterior height of something, that when you get that floor joist and you get all of the ceiling and everything else, you're gonna lose a good, what, 3 feet? If you
No more
include
than
the, yeah, and so we're only talking about like 9-foot usable space, even with the 23-foot height, right?
That's right,
So
yeah.
at the top of that. So, goodness, if you're carrying things or using your tools or moving things around, it is necessary to have that height. Trying to do this in a 7-foot basement is very difficult, I can imagine, you know.
I just look at it from the perspective of, I mean, you spend all this money to knock the thing down and then start it over, and we're talking about a few feet.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't think it's too crazy of an ask.
Right, and what are we trying to do out here? He's
Yeah.
trying to do that in Old Town.
Yeah,
More power to him.
Oh, I'm not
you're right.
negating that, I'm just pointing
Yeah.
out that, you know, it looks like a lot from the outside, but when you're talking usable space,
Yeah.
it's important.
And plus, the minute that he needs that extra 2 feet, then he'll be cussing it all. Yeah. All right, so I think that with that, unless anybody has any objections, I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 21-41, an ordinance approving the variance of requirements setback from the alleyway. I think I'll just leave it at that. So I'll entertain a motion to approve that. Okay, I have two first, so who wants to be?
Oh, I'll just second it.
Any more comments about the setback? From the
There's
alley?
setback?
From the alley. Okay, Ms. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Coe,
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini,
Aye.
Mr. Robinson,
Aye.
Ms. Fodor,
Aye.
motion passes 6-0.
So the next ordinance, 21-42, is to approve the variance of the side yard setback from the south lot line. So that's 21-42. Do we have any other questions or discussion about that? I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 21-42, approving the variance for a side yard setback.
So move.
Seconded.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Clerk?
Mr. Robinson,
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini,
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Mr. Coe,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Fodor,
Aye.
motion passed 6-0.
Okay, so this 21-43 is approved, an ordinance that would approve the variance for the height requirements, which is currently set at 23 feet. Do we have any questions or comments about the height requirements? Okay, so then in that case, I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 21-43, an ordinance approving the variance of the height requirements for the accessory structure in the R2 family residential district. So move.
Second.
Any other discussion? Ms. Clerk?
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Mr. Coe,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Fodor,
Aye.
Mr. Robinson,
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini.
Nay.
Motion passed, 5 ayes, 1 nay.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Kelly? You're set.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your time, everyone.
Thank you for coming this evening. Mr. Hedges?
With that, Mr. Mayor, I would ask for a motion to approve payment of $131,000, excuse me, $491.16. Peter Baker and Son Company for the Julie Lane resurfacing project. The contract amount was $148,000. The original budget amount was $170,000. So this project did come in under budget in the original contract, and we are withholding 5% retainage until spring. With that, we would ask for a motion for approval of the payment.
Does anyone have any questions about the payment distribution about the Julie Lane resurfacing?
I just, the process. Why do we separate this out from the accounts payable approval? Like, why is this called out separately than just being added as an accounts payable when the contract is already approved?
Well, there's a lot of documentation, all that's provided, paperwork for prevailing wage and other things that are in the packet. So we've always brought these to the board separately.
Just so I understand.
It's something we can discuss. I'm not sure that it's required by ordinance, but it's something that traditionally we've always brought to the board.
Jay, could I make one comment? There's a typo in the agenda, the actual payment, if you refer to the letter, it's $134,491.16.
Thank you, Tim.
Yep.
So now we're not as under budget as we were.
Still well under budget, actually.
Thanks, Mr. Paulson. All right, so with that, let's hope I have the number right here. I will entertain a motion to approve the payment of $134,491.16 to Peter Baker and Son for the Julie Lane resurfacing project.
So moved.
Questions, comments? Ms. Clerk?
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Fodor,
Aye.
Mr. Robinson,
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini.
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Mr. Coe.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
All right, Hedges, what's
And
next?
now we're back to zoning again. It's pretty much this could have been a zoning board meeting, really. So the next two items are related to that. We would ask for a motion to consider an ordinance amending the village code, chapter 6 zoning regulations to require written notification to certain nearby property owners regarding petitions for zoning relief. You have an agenda supplement in your packet. It turns out that all these notice provisions that we're very careful about are not actually documented in our code. And I know how strong this board in particular feels that everybody gets proper notice, and so we've added this to the code now to make it official. Unless you add anything, Mr. Schuster.
No, it's been a working rule long ago. In fact, I think it was when Mr. Ruth was the chair of the zoning board of appeals. The board adopted a rule for notice as to special uses. There is a notice provision as to variances that is in the code, and then that left unaddressed zoning amendments. So now you'll see that if you adopt this ordinance, the statement of notices to be given to adjoining or adjacent owners will be identical for all types of zoning relief. And also anyone looking at your code book who's contemplating the zoning action will see it right there. Know all along what's required.
So is this the roof ordinance?
We just call it a technicality.
All right, so does that hold true? Does that hold true for the following two items as well? Is that we're not?
No.
Okay. So this is just adding what we already do. Correct. Does anyone have any other questions about that?
I just want to say thank you for doing that. I mean, I appreciate it. So some work putting into it, and I think we're all about notice to the property owners and everybody. So appreciate that.
All right.
We have all of these on the front. We say thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 21-44, amending the village code. Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Ms. Clark?
Ms. Fodor,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Coe,
Yes.
Mr. Matt,
I didn't see it.
Aye.
Laura, Ms. Paulson.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mr. Hedges?
So we may have a packet, probably.
I didn't see it.
I'm going to ask you to withdraw the next item on the agenda because the ordinance itself did not make it in the packet, and it's a pretty substantial. I will tell you just briefly what we're doing, and then we'll provide it for you at the next meeting. You're all familiar with the Briar Hill Ventures project. They plan on doing some recreational things back in their land. And we've been talking to them about what they plan to do. There are various recreational things throughout our code. There's discussion of, oh gosh, there's slides, there's talk about ball fields, there's talk about trailers, parks, those kinds of things, but there's we don't have a zoning classification called recreation. So it kind of falls in various pieces and sections of the code. And what we found in other communities is they do have recreational districts. And we have at least one area being Briar Hill Road that we think would be appropriate for that. And we've also had some interest up near the truck stop and having a giant slide, those kinds of things. So those are the kinds of things that we're putting into one ordinance that would create a new zoning category. So let's just call that the first reading of the bill. And then we'll bring it back to you with all the details at the next time.
So I will entertain a motion to table letter H under the village manager's report.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Clark?
Has planning and zoning commission been able to discuss that?
Yes, they have, and they recommended approval.
Oh, okay.
But without the documents here for you to see, it's not.
No, just curious if they had a chance at it yet.
Under the recreational zoning district, will it have everything potentially that we're gonna use for recreation, or is it gonna be blanket, whatever they want?
You'll see specifics, and some will require variances, so that they'll have to go through the planning and zoning process, so there'll be some limitations. But I think it'd be easier to explain details to you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any other questions? Roll call vote, please, Ms. Clark.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Fodor,
Aye.
Mr. Robinson,
Aye.
Ms. Paulson,
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Mr. Coe.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
And this next item is a multi-step process, which I'll ask Ms. Lyons to discuss. We would ask for your consideration of a resolution determining the request of $1,210,000 to be levied for the 2021 tax year through real estate taxes for the village of Hampshire, King County, Illinois.
So what we're asking you to do tonight is pass this resolution that'll determine the amount that we will levy, which that is planned for the first meeting in December on December 2nd. So at least 20 days in advance of actually passing the levy ordinance, you have to announce what your levy is going to be. So what I did was I took you always work with last year's extension amount and work forward. So we are allowed to increase our levy by the lesser of the consumer price index from last year plus new construction, as long as the CPI index is 5% or less. So it's kind of a convoluted story. And during the public hearing on December 2nd, I will explain thoroughly the calculation and how we came to this. But it's important to note, and I tried to explain this in my memo, I hope that you all had the opportunity to read that, that it's important to, I'll say, estimate high. And the reason why we do that is we capture the new construction in the village. The village has actually had over $9 million in new construction go on the tax rolls this year. So if we were to accept the 1.4%,
which is kind of, it's not an automatic. I mean, you can choose any dollar amount you want to levy. But if we were to accept the maximum of 1.4%, we would leave a lot of money on the table, never to be captured again in the future, by accepting the 1.4%. Because we're going to, my estimate is over 5%, that puts us into another category where we must hold a public hearing for this purpose and publish in the paper and follow all the rules with respect to that. So this evening, all I'm asking you to do is pass the resolution setting the levy at $1,210,000, which will give us some wiggle room in case the estimates for new property and the EAVs change. So if you have any questions, I will try my best to answer.
I think it will be important, or I would ask,
Sure.
is that this is something we say every year, right? It's gonna be important during that public hearing to reassure residents that this is not representative of a property tax increase to homeowners' taxes, that this is a total property tax that the village would get, like you said, with new construction and buildings that may not be a part of it right now. Not voting to say we're gonna raise people's property taxes.
Exactly. In fact,
Because I know sometimes that can get confusing
Yes.
for every governmental agency that the residents pay
Yes.
into, right? They see this, they think, where are my taxes going? But that's not.
so, and if everything stays the same, so in other words, if your $100,000 home is still worth $100,000 this year, even though we're going to increase the levy, I expect the rate to go down, and therefore you would pay less property taxes. Now, I can't guarantee that your EAV won't go up, but if everything were to stay the same, the rate actually will go down, even though we're requesting more money. And I'll explain all that really thoroughly at the public hearing.
I'm gonna ask you to share a story that Lori shared with me today without naming any names.
Okay.
About how some other communities do this.
So if you were to look at some surrounding communities and what they're doing for their property tax levy request, Jay called it kind of the lazy way out, if you will. They're actually requesting 150 or 165% of their levy. So that's unreasonable, and I can't
And why do
imagine.
they do that? Because they don't take the time to do what Lori does, meticulously find out what our levy will be, so we don't alarm our residents any more than that.
Right.
And I was frankly kind of shocked. Well, maybe the majority of communities do that.
But the end game on that is that the county clerk will cut their tax back in accordance with the property tax cap law, no matter what number they put out.
They just do it because they don't want to miss anything, and they don't want to take the time to calculate it as precisely.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to publish that in the paper, frankly, myself. Because I think that would, like, the room could be filled with, residents, and not that that's bad, but it's unrealistic. And so we do take a little bit extra time to calculate a reasonable amount without leaving money on the table.
And as soon as I heard that story today, I thought of Mr. Kelly. Brings us up every year.
Well, and I just bring it up because every year there are residents, whether new to the community or it's really confusing. Even when you look at the seesaw of CPI versus the percentage and EAVs, it's good to take some time to educate those that may just be a little concerned that we're raising tax rates, and that's not what this is.
We just need to be clear, like we talked about, clear, concise in our communication when we do it, public hearing. And then I think last year we had a page on the website that explained the process. Am I correct? Or we had a piece of we had some kind of documentation that
I
explained.
don't know if it went on the website, but yeah, I do a PowerPoint presentation, and we can certainly put that whole presentation.
Yeah, I think that's important, just because there's just people that don't understand the process. I mean, it's hard for some of us to.
Yeah.
I'd say the majority of people.
Right.
Because you're not living and breathing.
Right. And it's very frustrating for me, and I'm sure you guys have all heard this as well. My property taxes are going up, and I pay $8,000, let's say, in property taxes, and when you look at the amount that the village actually, is so small of a percentage, like 6 or 7, cents on every dollar comes to the village. So, yeah, that's frustrating as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in full support of the schools, don't get me
No,
wrong,
no,
but so little comes to the village and we do provide.
And we
some
fight for every
benefits.
dollar, and we try to find every free dollar that we can get, and the unfunded mandates out of Springfield keep coming. And we try to do the best that we can, and so that infographic that you made of the dollar that's cut up into little pieces,
Mhm.
I use that all the time.
You see it again soon.
Yeah.
I use it all the time because people complain about taxes and stuff, and I said, well, here's where it goes.
Last year, I think we had some high school kids here from the
Yes.
civics class that happened to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one other thing that I want to mention is, we're only setting the levy for, our real estate taxes, right? We will come back at the next meeting and talk about all the SSAs, to get those.
Mr. Kelly's favorite topic.
Yeah, there's not the notification requirements. They're not the same as the big levy, but we will talk about those next week and then hopefully pass all our levies at the first meeting in December.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lyons. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Lyons about the process or any of that?
I just want to say thank you. This was really, really informative and I really appreciated it. It's thorough.
Well, we've got some new board members, so you've not been through the process, so hopefully it's laid out. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to approve resolutions 21-12, resolution determining the request of the levy to be, our levy for 2021, let's put it that way. So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Ms. Clerk?
Mr. Coe,
Okay.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Fuller,
Aye.
Ms. Robinson.
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you all. The next item on the agenda is our monthly reports. This month, the streets department and excuse me, this meeting, streets department and building department. You have both reports in your packet. I'll just briefly run through real quickly. Ms. Palastrellini's favorite piece of equipment, swept twice.
I saw it.
This month, last
I
month.
got stuck behind it.
We bought something too.
And also, just in case anybody saw it leave town, it took a trip to Burlington to help them before their Veterans Parade. They had a veteran coming home and we went down and swept Main Street for them.
I understand they went by Ms. Palastrellini's house first to take her up.
I really appreciate the fact that Dave did that. It was his recommendation to do that, and he certainly did a good job. Took a lot longer to get there than it did to sweep through downtown.
And he had to keep his eyes open. He couldn't
Right. Mr. Toth, we spent more money on our loader. So we'll be talking about that at the capital meeting soon. Utility locates, it's a very busy thing for us, and but it's something that we do. We're first on the front line there. No emergency callouts. We used 8 tons of asphalt. Tree trimming is very big right now, and then other work performed at the bottom. So thank you.
Josh? Yes, it was a building report included in your packet for the month of October. There were 35 permits issued this month. There was 10 new home permits applied for this month. The total number this year so far is 44 compared to at this time last year, there was 50. So we're down 6 permits for the year so far compared to last year. But Thames Farm has started. We received 7 permits from Thames Farm so far already. So they're gonna keep going, try to get some stuff done before the winter. Our average plan review time continues to be well under the contract commitment of 5 days. It's down at 1.6 this month. 144 inspections, and the permit fees collected were especially high this month at $34,000 for all those new home permit applications. Stanley has begun grading for self-storage facilities there on Allen Road. You've probably seen if you've driven by. And we do have 2 temporary COVID testing sites that have applied for permits in the village, both around Route 72. So I have to answer any questions.
The trailers, for lack of a better term,
They're stored, the storage container.
storage container.
With windows.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we have one behind the pharmacy, right?
No.
No.
No, what am I thinking? No, we have, there's one at Starks.
There is a testing there. There's one next to the psychic building and one in near Dairy Queen.
That's what I'm thinking.
actually in the pharmacy.
There's not a storage container.
There's not a storage.
You can test it.
So along with the two on 72 already, we're gonna entertain two more?
No, those are the two.
Those are the
Those are the two.
Okay.
What does it mean when it says both are awaiting further submittals?
So the permits have been applied for, the applications were submitted, and at the time I wrote this, they were awaiting further plans on the containers. They have to meet things like Illinois Accessibility Code. So they were just awaiting plans. I didn't check on them today, I should have, but I believe at least one of them has received all their plans.
It's funny because people don't even get out of their cars, but yet the containers need to be.
Well, the employees.
Oh, that's true.
And they also have to provide washrooms and that sort
Right.
porta potties.
Oh.
Or they can use the buildings if they're within 150 feet, which is in both cases.
So these are not operational right now by the psychic and then by Starks.
I don't think so, but I haven't checked recently.
All right, this isn't a question about the thing. Is this like government giving free money for these things that be popping up everywhere?
Actually, it's a very competitive process, which Mayor Reed and I both learned. Actually, you all sort of observed, some gentlemen here at the last meeting that you kind of took to the back and talked to. So it's a very competitive business. The state actually authorizes labs to do the tests, and then people compete for that business. And it's a very competitive business. It must be pretty lucrative too. This same company has already had, one of the two companies already has one over by in Quigley at the
Starks for the gas station.
corner. And so when one found out that the other one was coming up here, they sort of, we were calling the mayor and me saying, I was quick. As long as they both meet the code, we don't control how many businesses we can have in town.
Right.
So as long, and that's all we did was we asked them both to meet the code. So, this is, when you say government giving money to people, yes, this is all government funded, either at the state or federal level.
Okay. Don't get me wrong here, I'm all for testing. I just don't want to see shipping containers all over town.
Yeah, we had that very same conversation.
And the pharmacy is giving vaccination, they're testing it now,
Right.
as is the high school. It's not well publicized, but
Right,
high
but
school
I'm-
testing resident. if they go as well.
As you drive, not just around this area, but everywhere, you're seeing shipping containers pop up everywhere. It's an eyesore.
I think it's a part of the pandemic that we're all living in.
I agreed. I mean, it's a necessary thing, but I mean,
Two, like. So they are not to be open or running until these are approved? Am I understanding you correctly?
Yeah, they're not supposed to be operating until their permits have been issued, and I can probably look that up while we're talking.
It's possible that our inspector inspected today and gave the permit without Josh.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure because
That would explain why the sign was up on the one container the one day and then it wasn't the next day.
Right.
understood. Okay, I just am trying to understand the process of if I have a business. I don't have a permit for the business yet I've dropped my business in the middle of a parking lot without a permit. Is that, like, is that allowed?
I suppose we could find a parking violation of some kind, but one of them is in the parking lot. So we didn't really look into the issue of whether that.
It was pretty, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, it turned into a pretty, it started out as it was a good idea. And then it turned into a very contentious situation, and village staff did what they needed to do to try to make the situation go away, and that's where we are. So everybody's happy at the current time, and they just need to follow the rules, is where we're at. And so, in a perfect world, they would have had everything approved first, but with how things all worked out in the way that it did, container got there first, and we stepped in and said, look, we are happy that you are here. You know, you can be here, but you have to follow the rules. It's basically how it all came out. So I'm not talking for Mr. Hedges, but how things went down, it was going to turn into a situation that would not have been good. And so we made an executive decision to let this be the way it needed to be for now and ensure that they are going to follow the rules. Otherwise, they can pick the container up and go home. That's really, am I speaking out of turn?
No. In fact, there have been moments in the last couple of weeks when I wish they would.
I mean, it was pretty contentious for about a week. So.
And I would say that both property owners in both cases are longtime village residents and also people that have done a lot of development in this community, both properties. And so that is not the, sorry, I don't want to misrepresent the business, the fortune teller. That's not the same property. It's actually the property to the east owned by Mr. Lazar, who's been at the strip mall. So, and the other properties obviously for both.
And it was a learning experience for me and a learning experience for us, I would say, in what's required for the shipping container situation with the permits and the health department.
Well, I'm not trying to cause issues. We have a young gentleman who came this evening to get variances before he could start doing anything.
Mhm.
These are placed before the permits were done. That's why I'm just trying to understand, like, some of that, maybe it was discussed in the last meeting I was in here.
There was
I'm not trying to cause problems or.
There was some miscommunication, and I would say that it's fair to say that neither one thought that they required permits or any further approval, and both were wrong. And so in one case, the container had already been dropped, in the other case, it was dropped the next morning, and I did agree to let him do that because it was due to be delivered, and he agreed to meet all of our criteria.
Understood.
Other than it was dropped a couple of weeks ago.
I appreciate that.
So have they met the criteria?
We're waiting.
We're still waiting.
A permit will not be issued until they do. It's not very complicated and it's not very difficult.
Right.
In one case, they have to drop a porta potty off, in the other case, they just have to put, make sure it's ADA accessible.
Okay.
So in answer to everybody's question, they've been working diligently at the staff level to ensure that everybody follows the rules. Otherwise, they can take their ball and go home.
I'm sure they have. And like I said before, I'm all for more testing. I'm just not all for shipping container. Container being dropped off around our town. I mean, what does that do to look at your town?
No, I agree. It started out as one and then it turned into, it should have just been one. And then
But we just can't do it. We can't tell somebody if they meet the code that they can't.
Correct.
right.
It can't be
So
selected.
unless we pass an ordinance and something to restrict the zoning as far as that kind of stuff goes.
You have to create a license.
No, because I don't want to restrict access to testing because
Right.
that's important right now. I do want to keep the town looking respectable.
Is it a lucrative business?
It must be. Frankly, I don't see how it is when you have two of them or three of them this close together, but it must be.
I mean,
It's free to the public, but I suspect that I get paid $200 per test.
You need to test and need to go anywhere and do anything.
yeah, well, and the biggest, the concern, the reason why it was so appealing in the very beginning, I mean, was, school district, there are people working out here, because that was the first people that had the mandate, right? The people that were here only could go to the pharmacy. Not everybody could get into the pharmacy at the same time. So a testing centers for that. And now with what's coming out of Washington, with the fact that private companies, over 100 people are now going to be under that same requirement. I mean, these testing centers are going to be crucial to operations of local business. And so we've tried to be, ahead of the game as far as, we have a lot of industrial, a lot of people that ultimately, if this comes to pass, they're gonna need to get tested somewhere, and it'd be better if it was be able to be here because it's less impact to our business. But it's gonna be what it is. So again, there's a learning process. Is it handled the way that it should have been handled? No, but there was a lot of extenuating circumstances as to the reasoning as to why this situation was handled this way.
Totally understand. My thing was on where it said awaiting the further submittal and wasn't questioning decisions made by the staff.
No, and I'll take the heat for it because Jake flat out called me and he goes, all right, this is what's happening. Are you okay with this or not? And do you want me to make this call? Are you willing? And yes, I said, if the board questions it, I'm going to back you up on it because it was just.
And that was the cleanup what was already started.
Well, and I think to the point that Trustee Robinson said, anyone looking to travel, kids looking to get back into school, they're gonna really appreciate that they just
You're gonna need
are
that.
right here in the community.
Concerts, theaters.
No. Is there a way in future, say we get a third or fourth? Is there a way to put them in a more inconspicuous or like, for example, you mentioned it's going over by the Dairy Queen. Can it be more towards the back of the parking lot, back in the drive-through area or behind the gas station? So
It's already there.
I know that one's, I'm just saying in the future, like,
Well, I think that these things aren't gonna go away anytime soon, so it might be worth investigating.
We can look into whether or not we can restrict where they're located.
and I don't mean to make them less visible because I don't mean to downplay the importance of it. But signage, hey, COVID testing, right around back. Just so you're not looking, you're not driving through town and you're like, oh, there's 14 storage containers and stuff, you know?
I don't think anybody disagrees with you. I think that that's just something we can look at in the future is whether or not we can restrict them, license them or whatever. I mean, because these aren't going.
They're not going away.
Anytime soon, anyhow.
They're at least here for another year.
So, but
We will report back on that.
Thank you, sir.
Can I ask a question that's non-COVID related?
no, that's not.
Okay, all right.
No,
So-
we're like a radio station.
Okay,
We're doing like COVID on 20.
well, I'm just gonna switch the channel then. Okay, so, Teams Farm question. I noticed that you said 7 new home permit applications have been recorded, and since I pick my kid up every day, I get to see their progress. Have they started on the improvements?
No, so when they apply for the permit, it's just plans at that point. The plans have to be approved before they start construction. That's the usual
What do you
process.
mean by improvements? You mean infrastructure?
Yes.
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah, the
Sorry.
water and sewer and all the water and sewer lines, they're grading the roads, they're moving really fast.
Because
So,
I've noticed the big giant concrete tubes.
Yes, those are sewer.
Yep.
Mainly, yeah, all the infrastructure is going in and they expect to have the model, they've already pulled a permit for the model.
Awesome.
And they expect to have the model up by 1st of April and be pouring 15 basements, weather permitting this one.
It's a nice looking retention pond.
It is.
You put your fish in it
So those are at the office.
Thank you.
yet? Accounts payable, Mr. Hedges.
Yes, sir, we would ask for a motion to approve November 4, 2021 accounts payable to personnel.
Any questions or comments about the $218.88 to be paid to Mr. Huff and Ms. Davis? And I will entertain a motion to approve the accounts payable for the disbursement of $218.88 for employees. Second. Questions, comments? Ms. Clerk?
Mr. Mott.
Aye.
Mr. Coe.
Yes, aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Holder.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Yeah.
Ms. Paulson. Motion passed.
Thank you. We would also ask for a motion to approve November 4, 2021 regular accounts payable.
This is my favorite, big one. What do we got? What questions we have today? Come on, Mr. Robinson.
I got 2.
Okay.
Page 4. I'm guessing this is a Miss Hertel. Did she only pay by almost $1,000 for her refund of her utility?
So there were 2 refunds of utilities.
Yeah, I saw the second, the first one.
Yeah, I believe what happened with this one is, she actually moved out and had scheduled, at her bank, right, you know how you can do your online banking
Like
payments?
automatic payments?
She continued to pay, even though she's no longer a village resident.
She didn't want to
90%
donate?
sure that- No, she actually decided she'd like to have her money back, so.
Okay.
You should have a clause or something. If they move out, they don't get it.
I did that when I refinanced my house. I'm still trying to get that payment back for my old mortgage.
Page 5. Put a shipping container. To make it back immediately.
I'm sorry. I
Put a
didn't hear
shipping
you.
container at your old place.
I still can't hear you.
Put a shipping container out there.
Oh, thank you. They don't permit that in the city, I don't think.
Just drop it. See that? Page 5, IDOT, we're paying
Right, so this is,
$265,000. Is this for the 72 in State Street?
this is related to, yes, the, Route 72 State Street.
These are, sorry, because I just spoke with IDOT this week. This is 80% of our share of the improvements of that intersection.
Can we just tell them that they
As
don't
agreed
get this till March?
As agreed in the intergovernmental agreement between the village and IDOT.
I don't think we should pay it. I think they should wait till March because that's when they're pushing the damn project.
Well, that's what I was wondering, why would?
No.
It was.
For clarification, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, the contractor has a completion date. If he doesn't reach the completion date, he can get fined. It doesn't have a start date. He has a completion fee.
And we talked about this at the last meeting. The only requirement is that it be completed by October 28, 22. There's no requirement.
So he can start in September of 22 if he wants.
I'm still mad about it.
Why are we
If I could
required
just explain something,
80% so far in advance of the project?
because that's in the contract that you all approved last year.
This date was?
Yes, no, the agreement, that we would prepay the 80%. Yes, this is all.
Upon award was in the contract.
Okay.
So the contract was let, the award was given, and now we owe our.
Okay, so that's the stipulation of why this is the.
In this particular contract, yes, it's a little unusual, but yep.
Well, that was
And I spoke-
my question. Why it's ordered, but no, never mind. I'm done.
Mr. Hedges, no, we're just mad about it. That's all.
I know you're mad about it, but it's.
That's not gonna change anything. We just wanna be mad.
I will say, maybe I should have explained the contract more clearly when we said it's a very long contract, but all these provisions are in the contract. And all we're doing is following the contract that we all agreed to.
I totally understand. I think there wasn't an expectation of a contract for a contractor to be assigned 6 months before a project even starts.
I was just gonna explain that. I'm gonna recommend that we do the same thing for streetscape in January. Because what we're finding is when you don't give the contractor enough window, they can only, once they start the project, they only have X amount of time to start to finish. I believe in that, do you remember, Tim, is it 3 months? This is really not Tim's specialist, but I think it's 3 months. Once they start, they have to finish in 3 months. But what we did for our streetscape last year is we only gave them 2 weeks to respond to the contract. And it was, we were trying to rush it to get into the season. And then we gave them a window where they had to be finished in 3 months, but we didn't give them any flexibility to that window. And what I'm learning now, having been through several contracts and talked about several other projects, if we did this in the wintertime when they're not busy, now they have a lot of time to look for more bids, to do more sub-bidding, to look for more materials, and they can find better pricing. They can also look at their work schedule for the following year and say, okay, I have 3 months to finish the streetscape project. If I start April 1st, I can be done by July, but I have all these other projects that I'm bidding at the same time. If I could do this between June and September, or June and August in 3 months, I can do it cheaper. I can charge them less money. So we'll get better pricing and better bids if we give them more flexibility. Not more time to have the street torn up, but more a window of when they do the work.
So is it safe to assume then in your conversations with IDOT that the $265,000 that we're giving them for the contract is going straight to the contractor right now, or are they holding this money in?
I don't know the answer to that. All I know is that I went through the contract this week. I read the contract clearly. I married it to the chart that you all saw, which said federal funding, state funding, and local funding. And these are with, it's exactly those dollars.
This is going right in IDOT's coffers.
Yeah.
The contractor will not get paid a dime until he submits pay requests
So,
and the EI approves.
correct me if I'm wrong, then we approved that prior to them then stating that materials were gonna cost a lot more, so it's had to get pushed back, right?
I don't recall that coming up. Are you talking about streetscape now?
No, 72, and didn't they pushed it back? Right? No?
No, it's never been pushed back. The only thing that initially we thought they would start construction this fall, right about now,
And they did.
and they did not. Everything that you've seen so far is just easement work. These are
Right. So,
utility lines, are various type of work that has to be done before the contract starts. So it's NIGAS, mostly NIGAS so far, and ComEd, and some cabling.
so I guess
be done.
what's frustrating for me then is they are making money off of our $265,000 and not doing anything yet.
The state is,
The state is.
but the contractor starting next spring in hopes of fuel costs going down and materials costs going down. So the price that he submitted for the bid, he's gonna go out and get the materials at a cheaper price and make more of a profit.
Gonna make more.
Which, but I know just point is exactly what we agreed to in the contract was to pay at this time. Maybe this is a learning of that, rather than giving up this much money, there's stipulations in future contracts that if we're gonna approve it that early, that money gets, as soon as the job is awarded, that money is either allocated in a separate fund, but held by the village to be sent, or whatever that may be.
Mr. Kelly, I think that seems like a very reasonable thing to do, but IDOT doesn't negotiate those kinds of things in their contracts. They just, this is the way they do it. If you don't agree.
Completely understand. I meant this is a learning, not that we could tell I know what to do, but in the future, like you said about streetscape, we
Yeah,
do
but
have a little bit more power.
Yeah, the learning experience is that we need to learn to do what IDOT's doing, frankly.
And that's
what I'm learning.
That's my frustration, is the state is never willing to bend for us, but here we are, they're making money off of our money.
Contract,
They're big.
I wouldn't be surprised if this contractor this is a very large contract. I would expect that he probably does have a prepayment of some kind.
for the record, I don't care whether we agree to it or not.
You're absolutely entitled to
Hey,
that.
that's just gonna get more trailers, more storage containers.
Shipping containers, are they bringing one out for the project? Then they put your picture on the side.
Okay,
Okay.
they're gonna charge me for it, I'm sure. But like, IDOT doesn't
I know.
bend to any of our requests.
Nope.
Actually, they did bend to some requests for your call. We asked them to change the sidewalk on State Street.
You're right, they did, I apologize, they did do that one.
I would say Mr. Tillerman has actually been very cooperative. He's a good local resource for us now. He's actually put me in contact with some other people at the district office that have helped us with some of our economic development projects.
But then we did ask,
Good contactor.
we did ask for crosswalks at 72, and we're denied that.
They gave us one of the crosswalks, the other one wasn't practical because, as you know, there wasn't enough space.
Correct.
Gas station.
Anybody else have anything negative to say about IDOT?
But I do have a question that on page 8, just Siegel's Cabinet Center, it's a sales tax rebate. Is that
This
kind of
is
like
a
an
great story
incentive?
that Lori would like to tell all of you. Lori said it's good about.
You're full of stories.
So Staples has a sales office here in Hampshire on Industrial Drive.
Okay.
It's just a sales office, and so we receive 1% of their sales tax receipts, approximately 1%. The state takes a little bit of a cut. And our agreement with them is to share 50% of that sales tax back. So
Okay.
this is an annual look back, and this is half of the sales tax received from.
But aren't we collecting this,
It goes into perpetuity.
Forever.
and aren't we collecting a portion of sales tax for their sales in St. Charles and Chicago and everywhere else?
The reason I said it's an interesting story, one time this was a huge business. They were selling road trusses, I think, right? Or something. Yeah. It was well over $100,000 a year in sales tax. Now that they basically have a mailing address here in Hampshire, and we still get half of their sales taxes in perpetuity now. We're gonna be talking about sales taxes again sometime soon, rebates, and we will not be talking about in perpetuity. Okay.
Ever. Well, as long as I'm here. let's
But
just-
half of something is better than half of nothing. That's the way I look at it. So,
Yeah.
That's true, that's true.
The glass is always half full with you. I'm sorry.
not, you don't know me that well.
Now when it comes to budget time.
I am definitely the other way around.
Well, we get nothing.
And one last question then on page 9, just the Bank of New York Mellon. What is, I mean, street
So we have-
principal, water principal?
Yeah, we have two bonds issues that both are out there that have semi-annual payments. And so part of the responsibilities, depending on which bond it is, belongs to either the street department, water, or sewer. And so this is payment that includes both principal and interest.
Okay, so this is multiple one.
Two bonds, yes.
It's just 2 bonds.
Yeah, so it says GOARS 12 and then GOARS 16.
Okay,
Those relate to the issues, so it's general obligation, alternate revenue source 2012. So that was the issue of 2012, and then general obligation and alternate revenue source 2012, or 16, sorry.
okay. And so that's payment, so it's principal and interest, principal and interest.
No.
Is that like 2 payments worth then for each one?
No, it's one payment each, it's just split by the responsible department, if you will.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. It's a painful one when I see 185,000.
Yeah, so,
Six.
in the month of December, the payments due in December are, principal and interest, and then the payments due in June are interest only, so.
Okay.
You did see this before, it's just, this is the big one because of, the requirement of both principal and interest. And the one that has the, I think the total or principal due is like $130,000. That only has a couple of years left, so we're looking to roll that one out pretty quick.
Okay, great. Thank you.
2025.
Well, that's something pretty spend that money. Plenty of options.
Rubber tire unloader, I'll say it, so Toby doesn't.
He's still gonna say.
Yeah, you're probably, I'm just waiting for it. He's gotta say it and I'll get bingo. And, can I entertain a motion now? Everybody happy?
No.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the accounts payable, in the amount of $710,926.78. Yep. Okay, there's one. Okay, I got a yep and a second. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Fodor.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Ms. Paulson.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
Now to everybody's favorite commission, business development.
Aye.
Hi. What you got?
My normal first Thursday of the month report, EDC will be meeting on the second Wednesday, which is the 10th. The village, or a monthly meeting. Are there any other reports I should be aware of, Mr. Chairman?
No, sir.
Okay.
PR.
All right, so no report really, but I wanted to announce the next meeting will not be held on Thanksgiving, the fourth Thursday of the month. So I'm so sorry.
We could be thankful for that.
Yes,
Okay.
so we don't have an alternate date or time that I am aware of.
I think you guys should do it on Black Friday, Christmas. So instead of shopping, you could be here.
Save a lot of money.
She's just staring at me.
I'm thinking no, so. I appreciate your suggestion. How about that?
Put that in the suggestion box.
Yes, exactly.
Anything else? Okay. Public Works?
That was already reported on.
Okay.
Terry reported on.
Budget?
I actually had a brief conversation this week with the Director Lyons here, just to kind of get a feel of the process and moving forward. So it wasn't an official meeting, it was an informal discussion. So moving forward in preparation.
Announcements, anybody have anything? I have a few.
Saturday.
Yeah, okay. What you got?
No,
You talked to.
you do that. Thanks, everybody that contributed or helped out and did the chili thing last week. That was great.
Who won?
Mark from the water department.
He said it was the greatest day of his life.
He called his wife right
I
away.
came to work and it was the first time I've ever made chili in my life. And I got every single ingredient from life.
We need sticker
If you would have kept the hat on, you probably would have won.
And if they didn't think my blue cheese was cottage cheese. I
That's
There wasn't enough blue cheese.
It was totally
You're
right.
Or tofu.
He
You
told,
didn't get sick?
no,
Tofu.
nobody got sick that other meeting, so.
Nope,
No, no wonder.
That's a victory.
you're fine.
So Saturday, Toby's had, some pretty in-depth conversation with, St. Nick. He's coming to visit this weekend.
Awesome.
And so, if anybody, so do you know what the hours are?
No,
10 to 4.
Yeah.
10 to 4.
if any one of you have kids, don't bring them. Cause I'm gonna promise that kid bikes,
Everything.
garbage, storage container, shipping containers.
Everything you're promising is in a shipping.
That's right. You just have to learn how to speak.
If anybody,
You're gonna recommend those things to.
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
pour some gravel on my side yard to put my shipping container?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
if anybody has some free time on Saturday and would like to, assist Santa in managing his line of, people.
Where's Santa gonna be?
He's gonna be at the Bassett Hound place, like he was last year. I think, are you outside or inside, do you know?
Inside.
You're inside this year?
It's only gonna be 45 degrees, so.
Okay, so he'll be inside, so basically, in the past, it's always been, a couple of us have done it, and you just say, okay, next. Or you'll hold a camera for the families and take pictures and that kind of stuff. It really is a good time.
Excited.
So, I mean, if anybody has some time this weekend and is willing to give some, time to help Santa and make, some kids' holiday break, that would be good. We need to talk about, we've had a tradition here, or had a tradition where, we hang the water bill, sign over the water bill box, and we accept letters from Santa. And every one of the trustees in the past and the mayor grab letters as they come in and, made sure that Santa responds to them. So as long as they put their address on the letter when they bring it in and they put it in the water bill box, we make sure that Santa responds. That's kind of a tradition, something that we've always done. So, we need to figure out what date that we want to put the sign out.
Day after Thanksgiving.
What day is the?
How about the day before, because we don't have workers.
That's nice.
Let's do it.
That's why I'm asking.
No, 23rd.
November.
Yeah. Santa.
Okay, as long as
Before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so the day, like the 23rd of the November and stuff, so, because we normally we do it so late and everybody rushes to put reindeer in.
Santa gets
The
trustees carpal
23rd
tunnel.
is Tuesday.
Okay.
Public Works is gonna hang it up, hopefully.
I'll tell.
Did you redo the front or just paint it?
Everything's still there for the sign.
Is the front of the building just repainted?
Yeah,
Okay,
the
so
tiles are still there.
okay,
So everything's.
the anchors are still there for the mailbox.
Well, I didn't tell them to take it out, and I haven't looked, so I presume they're still there.
If not, we'll get some duct tape.
We'll get some new anything, but I'm sure there's still.
So there's that, and then, okay, so our cruise director has rallied the troops, pass this down, and on December 11th, so we've done the holiday, we did the holiday parade last year. And this year they want to expand on it, so like the library did an event last year separate, the park district did an event separate. Now everybody's kind of getting together and they want to do it before the parade on the 11th. So
Similar to Trump Street, close it off State Street.
we're gonna close down the block in front of the village hall as to not impact Copper Bridge and that kind of stuff. But and so there's like, the Grinch is gonna come and Saint Nick has already been told that he needs to be here and happy. And so.
I got the Grinch. I got the Grinch too.
And Mrs. Claus will be there too.
And Mrs. Claus is gonna come as well, and so there's a lot of details that are coming, but, I'm gonna.
That was the fall festival.
We lost power for a second, Tim.
Just one block going to be enough.
Rose garden, okay, with the kids. In the village, the Grinch is gonna be here for photo op. There'll be some crafts for the kids here. Outside, there'll be storybook, Christmas carolers, Christmas cookie dog.
I think all of that's great. What I'm saying is, should we be blocking off more?
Yeah, one block.
Well, you might have to look at. So here's the thing, so this is the first time that they're doing this, and I understand where you're coming from. And we could look at maybe blocking this block and then maybe one of the side streets or something, but I really don't want to impact, like, we had a conversation after trunk or treat, right? Michelle was really happy that we did we did trunk or treat and that kind of stuff. It was also warmer. So people could still park in the lot and then walk over to a restaurant if they wanted to not participate in this. If we close the street off, 2:30 to 4:30 again, a few months later, impacting her business, I don't know how happy that she's gonna be, number one. I haven't asked her, I don't know.
We should ask her, Mike, because 2:30 to 4:30 is not a big rush
Right.
on restaurants.
That's
Okay.
our plan.
And that's people that usually sit at a bar and they can park their lot for 2 hours.
We're planning on redoing this whole streetscape thing for the purpose of shutting it down for events like these, which is right in front of her business, so.
It was just a thought we had because we didn't know that we'd have, so here's the thing, so we were gonna do this holiday fest. The tree lighting's gonna be at 4:30, and then we were still gonna wanna do the parade like we did last year with the staging at Hampshire Middle School, and then because there's not everybody in this community is comfortable coming downtown and being on top of everybody yet. Nope. So we figured that we'd do the parade like we did last year, and we hopefully utilize the same route. Where we go through the neighborhoods and that kind of stuff, so that people that want to participate in the holiday fest and do this, they can. Or people that want to stand out on the route, which is over a mile long.
No, this is mine.
People had a ball.
Yeah, I gave it.
I think it's good. My question is whether we should do this. I just.
Just be on the recording.
Well, if they look on that, that's fine.
Really? And really, if we just put in the Daily Herald or something, this would actually be a marketing tool for Copper Barrel. People coming into town, so they didn't know Copper Barrel existed.
What do we do?
All right, you're hitting them at their lowest.
I think it was just more of the crowd and.
We're looking for a.
All right, so let's,
Documents related to such and such.
let's put it this way. We're gonna work with the holiday cruise director person is going to.
Negotiate it.
It's gonna work through the details with the chiefs and make sure that it's safe and we have.
I don't know who that was. It wasn't me.
So that, nobody's opposed to it. But we're gonna do like, they wanna do like a holiday light decorating contest as well, so that people can sign up and drop stuff off, drop their application off here, and then we'll do online voting. So the residents can go and check out people's houses and see if they've got the best Christmas lights or holiday lights.
And this is in coordination with the library, the township, the park district. Where's the tree lighting?
We haven't figured that out yet. So, no, so there's a resident on Highland Avenue that has a substantial evergreen tree that wants to donate it to the village. They need to cut it down because it's too tall and the squirrels are getting in the house. Her request is that when she was younger, they used to put a tree downtown and light it. And so Mr. Sterrett was at the meeting yesterday and is trying to find a way to find where electric is downtown, so we can place the tree downtown somewhere.
How tall is the tree?
As tall as we want it to be. It's a pretty tall tree, but we can cut the top part of it off.
It's about 25 feet tall now, but we can cut it as short as you
For
want.
streetscape, I think that would be an awesome idea when that comes to.
Apparently, they used to put it out in front of the, where the Fifth Third Bank was. They used to take parking spaces away and put the tree out on State Street years ago.
right up front here with the village hall.
Oh, they did? Right in the street?
In the handicap spot.
No kidding.
I only asked about the coordination because the tree lighting is a tradition that the park district has done at Siler Park. They have a tree with electrical right next to it, so as long as they're on board.
They're good with it.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
They're part of us too.
Yeah, that's why I'm just.
Yeah, and so,
The park district.
and like the Grinch event was something that the library did. It wasn't really well attended, so they thought that they'd incorporate it into this. So,
And then we get the Lions Club helping out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Everybody.
and Locks, Newman's, Kelly Zoppi from the Basset Hound.
Western Confectionery, she's donating, making.
I think maybe having a cake, get a band.
Yeah. There you go.
No, we got Christmas carolers.
Toby and the Whalers.
No, I think this is great, especially coordination with all of the different organizations is really, I know the PR committee has talked about it.
Well, this is exactly, yeah, so,
So the cruise director really kind of stuck her teeth into it.
good.
Great job.
Can you clarify though, because like, I know the parade is sometime and then this is 2:30 to 4:30. When's the parade then?
So the parade,
After 4:30.
the parade would be after this event. So we're trying to formulate the details, but my gut is that staging would be at Hampshire Middle School from 4 PM to 5 PM with
okay, with 5 p.m. being when the parade kicks off, because that's right about when dusk was last year. And so everybody decorates their cars and stuff, and they're all lit up, and then we left right as it was starting to get dark.
Do you miss then the lighting of the tree, if that's gonna be?
Well,
at 4:30?
Linda and I kind of talked about that too, because you know, like, the Magnificent Mile, Mickey goes like this, or whatever, in the parade, and then the tree lights up.
Uh-huh.
So maybe rather than like a tree lighting ceremony, if you will, we could time it in a way that as the parade hits State Street, then the tree turns on as the parade hits it or something. So, I mean, there's.
Watch a lot of Hallmark movies.
You know what I mean? Like we can.
Christmas in July.
We can try to have some fun. Well, this is the first time that we're doing it, but I just thought we'd have some fun. So we're all open. Like whoever wants to participate and help plan this or have ideas, let's do it. You know, and at the people, the same to the people that are representing other organizations, get their boards involved.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's have fun. So.
Okay. Yes.
Dutch Gunderson has a question.
Mike, briefly on the lighting of the tree, who's gonna be the village clerk Griswold who connects?
Well, you're the guy that's gonna put the star on it. Did you just volunteer to be the guy to plug it in?
We should have somebody out there with a robe and a cigar.
No.
There'll be children there.
Our storage containers are perfect for somebody.
All right, any other announcements, comments, questions? Yes.
I just wanted to congratulate the Hampshire High School cross-country team as they're headed to state this Saturday. So, wishing them the best of luck and sweetness of fortune.
And I hate to bring it down here, but I'm the COVID guy. Sorry. But District 300 has shown they will shut down the school if numbers get too high, so I'd like to remind us in the holiday season, all the residents, please be careful, be safe, keep the numbers down so our kids can stay in school. Kids can get vaccinated, you know?
Yes. Yes. You would not fun having a high schooler learning from home again. So
No, it's not, and
please do it again.
they will shut it down if they have to, so let's please stay safe.
Let their kids home.
No, because I want my kids going to class and doing what they need to do. And as a teacher, I know that our lessons are not really equipped to make good decisions when we are unsupervised. And my employer doesn't really like it when I try to work from home, so I can stay safe and attention turn around people.
I mean, it's a pretty
We
bad
know that
decision
kids
for
are,
us.
well, we know that kids learn best in person, so
They do.
it would be great if we could teach them that.
Does anybody else have any uplifting news for us this evening?
No, I'm sorry for that.
All right.
Yes, and one more, sorry. P300 Food Pantry is collecting items for the holidays. And some groups that I am part of are collecting 250 of an item.
250 what?
Of a single item. My group has been assigned cooking oil, so if anybody would like to donate some cooking oil for P300 families, just let me know. I will come pick it up from you. I would like to get it in sometime around Thanksgiving. My deadline is December 1st, but if anybody else would like to volunteer, contact the food pantry and find out if they need some assistance, either packing items or collecting them.
And what kind of vegetable? Anytime?
They just have cooking oil, so no, maybe not.
Eddie?
So, the higher temperature oil or canola and flour.
Olive?
that kind of stuff.
Peanut
I'm
oil.
sure they have fine with
Sunflower.
vegetable oil.
Okay.
I think like cooking oil.
Crisco.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Midget, by the way. Thank you for
You're
these
welcome.
wonderful names.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes.
You can make
Thank
trustee
you.
Polistrini for that.
I'm gonna put it on my mirror so I
My
can.
mangs don't work.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn unless there's any other business.
It's not thicker than I plate. It's
I
right
got a
underneath
second.
it.
Ms. Clark, you're up.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Poe.
Aye.
Mr. Mott.
Aye.
Ms. Paulson.
Yeah.
Aye.
There's a siren.
Adjourn.
See you, Tim.
Thank you, Don.
The other way.
Thank you.
Yeah.